A berry that contains 12 times more vitamin C than an orange. The only plant on Earth with every single omega fatty acid. 190 bioactive compounds in one fruit. Soviet cosmonauts drank its juice before space missions. Chernobyl burn victims were treated with its oil. For 40 years during the Cold War, Soviet scientists researched it, developed it, classified its cultivation as a state secret. And then the Soviet Union collapsed. The files were opened, the research was translated, and the West discovered that while we were spending billions on radiation treatment and antioxidant supplements, a single thorny shrub growing wild across Asia contained everything our bodies needed to heal from radiation damage. This is the story of Sea Buckthorn, the Soviet space secret buried for half a century. Before we go further, this plant survived the extinction of mastodons, fed Alexander the Great's army, and grows in conditions that kill everything else. The question isn't what it does. The question is, why don't you know about it? Welcome to Nature's Forgotten Vault. Before we open this vault, if these stories matter to you, the best way to preserve this wisdom is simple. Subscribe, hit the bell, and share these vaults with those who need to remember what we forgot. Sea Buckthorn, Hippophae rhamnoides. The name means shiny horse. Ancient Greeks fed it to their war horses and watched their coats turn radiant. It's a thorny, deciduous shrub that grows 6 to 13 feet tall. Narrow, silvery green leaves, bright orange berries clustered along the stems. Grows on riverbanks, mountain slopes, seashores across Europe and Asia. It survives where nothing else can. Temperatures from minus 45 degrees Fahrenheit to 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Altitude from sea level to 12,000 feet. Saline soil, alkaline soil, drought, flood, radiation. The berries ripen bright orange in September and stay on the branches through winter. In northern climates, it was often the only source of vitamin C available when everything else died. Here's what's inside one berry. Vitamin C, 400 to 2,500 milligrams per 100 grams, depending on variety. Oranges have 53 milligrams. Sea buckthorn has up to 12 times more. Complete omega profile, the only plant source of omega-3, omega-6, omega-7, and omega-9, in near-perfect 1-to-1 ratio of omega-3 to omega-6, exactly what humans need. Omega-7 concentration, 40%. Milk has 0.24%. Vitamins A, B1, B2, B6, C, E, K. Beta-carotene, 70 milligrams per 100 grams. Carrots have 20 milligrams. Minerals, calcium, iron, magnesium, potassium, phosphorus, zinc, copper, manganese, selenium. Antioxidants, over 190 phytonutrients, flavonoids, polyphenols, carotenoids, superoxide dismutase, the super antioxidant. One berry, every nutrient your body needs to fight oxidative stress. Tibetan locals call it life oil. The Soviets called it classified. Let's talk about why. Fossil records show sea buckthorn existed 480,000 years ago across the United Kingdom during the Hoxnean interglacial period. Paleolithic hunter-gatherers in Tibet and Portugal used it as a food source. It survived the Pleistocene extinctions that killed the mastodons and mammoths. Ancient Greece, athletes like Phidippides, the original marathoner, consumed sea buckthorn before their legendary runs. Alexander the Great fed it to his war horses before battle. Legend says it gave Pegasus the power to fly. Genghis Khan relied on sea buckthorn to fuel his armies across Asia in the 1200s. His troops fed it to their horses. The animals returned from the forests with radiant, shiny coats, full of health. That's where the Latin name Hippophae came from, tree that makes horses shine. traditional Chinese medicine used since the Tang Dynasty in the 7th century to treat allergies, cardiovascular disease, gastrointestinal issues, skin conditions, called it a cooling herb that clears heat from blood and organs. Tibetan medicine, sacred plant, used to heal wounds, reduce inflammation, support digestion. Locals consumed it year-round as food and medicine. For thousands of years, from Greece to Mongolia to Tibet, sea buckthorn was recognized as a survival plant, something that kept people alive when nothing else could. But here's where it gets strange. In the 1940s, the Soviet Union started researching sea buckthorn, and then the research disappeared. In the 1940s, Soviet scientists began studying sea buckthorn's bioactive compounds. They were looking for adaptogenic and radioprotective properties, substances that help the body resist stress and protect from radiation. What they found shocked them. Sea buckthorn oil, when applied to skin or consumed orally, significantly reduced radiation damage. The antioxidants, especially vitamin C, vitamin E, flavonoids, and carotenoids, neutralized free radicals produced by radiation exposure. The omega-7 fatty acids regenerated mucous membranes and skin tissue. By the 1960s and 1970s, during the height of the space race, the Soviets had a problem. Cosmonauts exposed to cosmic radiation in space were developing radiation sickness. Solar radiation, gamma rays, it was destroying their cells. The solution? Sea buckthorn. Before Yuri Gagarin went into space in 1961, the first human in space, he was given large doses of sea buckthorn juice as a preventative measure. Soviet cosmonauts in the 1980s and 1990s consumed sea buckthorn beverages and used sea buckthorn oil creams to protect their skin from radiation burns during re-entry. The space program designated sea buckthorn as part of the official cosmonaut diet. It worked. Radiation damage decreased, recovery times improved. But here's the thing, the research was classified. The cultivation techniques were classified. High-yielding varieties were developed, and those were classified as state secrets.
The West had no idea. Then came April 26, 1986. Chernobyl. Reactor number 4 exploded. Firefighters arrived within minutes. None of them wore protective gear. They didn't know they were walking into the worst nuclear disaster in history. The explosion at Chernobyl nuclear power plant released 400 times more radioactive material than the Hiroshima bomb. Firefighters extinguished the roof fires within hours, but the doses they received on the first day were lethal. Within 3 months, 28 firefighters and plant workers died of acute radiation syndrome. 237 people developed acute radiation syndrome. Of those, 134 were hospitalized with severe radiation burns, both internal from gamma radiation and external beta burns from radioactive particles. The symptoms: nausea, vomiting, skin peeling off in sheets, internal organs failing, bone marrow destroyed, immune system collapsing. Hospitals in Pripyat were overwhelmed. The most critical patients were evacuated to Moscow, to Hospital Number 6, the Specialist Radiation Treatment Center. Soviet doctors had one treatment that Western medicine didn't: sea buckthorn oil. They applied it topically to radiation burns. They administered it orally. The high concentrations of antioxidants neutralized free radicals. The omega-7 regenerated damaged tissue. The vitamin E accelerated healing. Patients who received sea buckthorn treatment showed faster recovery rates. Skin regenerated. Internal damage stabilized. Not all survived. 28 died. But those who did credited sea buckthorn as part of their treatment protocol. After Chernobyl, Soviet medical researchers published studies on sea buckthorn's radioprotective effects. The plant that had been classified for 40 years was suddenly being used to save lives. But the West still didn't know.
The research was published in Russian journals, Soviet bloc countries. It never reached Western medical institutions. Western doctors treating cancer patients with radiation therapy had no idea a plant existed that could reduce radiation damage. Let's be clear about what this means. While the Soviets were protecting cosmonauts and treating Chernobyl victims with Sea Buckthorn, millions of cancer patients in the West were suffering radiation burns with no equivalent treatment. The Soviet Union collapsed in 1991. The classified research became public. Scientists in Finland, Germany, Canada, New Zealand, China started studying Sea Buckthorn. They confirmed what Soviet researchers had known for 40 years: antioxidant capacity. Among the highest of any fruit, comparable to or exceeding blueberries, cranberries, pomegranates. Radiation protection. Studies showed sea buckthorn oil partially inhibits formation of reactive oxygen species induced by UV radiation, reduces DNA damage from oxidative stress, skin regeneration. Omega-7 fatty acids accelerate wound healing, reduce inflammation, improve mucous membrane health, used to treat eczema, dermatitis, burns, radiation-induced skin damage. Immune support. High vitamin C content, up to 2,500 milligrams per 100 grams, strengthens immune function. Flavonoids modulate immune response. Cardiovascular health. Omega fatty acids reduce inflammation, lower LDL cholesterol, raise HDL cholesterol. Studies show reduced risk of heart attack. Anti-inflammatory. Reduces C-reactive protein, inhibits inflammatory pathways. Digestive health. Regenerates gastrointestinal mucous membranes. Used to treat peptic ulcers, acid reflux, inflammatory bowel disease. China designated Sea Buckthorn sports drinks as official beverages for athletes at the 1988 Seoul Olympics and 1992 Barcelona Olympics. The Chinese Olympic team consumed it for endurance and recovery. India's military uses sea buckthorn for high-altitude endurance in the Himalayas. Soldiers stationed at 15,000 plus feet consume it to combat altitude sickness, oxidative stress, and extreme cold. Everest climbers take sea buckthorn supplements, Arctic explorers, extreme athletes, because it works. So if sea buckthorn is this powerful, and the research is public, and it grows wild across multiple continents, why aren't doctors prescribing it? Reason 1. No pharmaceutical profit. Sea buckthorn grows wild. It's a shrub. You plant it once, and it produces berries for 50-plus years. The berries can be harvested, dried, and consumed. The oil can be cold-pressed from the seeds and pulp. You can't patent it. You can't synthesize it. You can't charge $50,000 for treatment course. Pharmaceutical companies sell antioxidant supplements for $30 to $60 per bottle. Synthetic vitamin C, synthetic vitamin E, omega-3 capsules from fish oil. Sea buckthorn contains all of them naturally, in higher concentrations, in bioavailable forms, for free if you grow the shrub yourself. No profit incentive equals no marketing budget equals no awareness. Reason 2. Radiation treatment is a $7 billion industry. In the United States, over 1 million cancer patients receive radiation therapy annually. Radiation oncology generates $7 billion per year. Radiation burns are known side effects. Patients are given steroid creams, aloe vera gel, antibiotics for infections. They suffer through weeks of painful recovery. If sea buckthorn oil could reduce radiation burns, if it could accelerate healing, reduce inflammation, protect healthy tissue, it would threaten a multi-billion-dollar industry built on managing side effects. Oncologists aren't trained in herbal medicine. Medical schools don't teach about sea buckthorn. Clinical trials cost millions, and no pharmaceutical company will fund research on a plant they can't patent. Reason 3. Cold War legacy. For 40 years, Sea Buckthorn research was locked behind the Iron Curtain. Soviet scientists published in Russian. Soviet agricultural programs cultivated it. Soviet hospitals used it. The West developed its own treatments, synthetic antioxidants, pharmaceutical interventions. By the time Soviet research became public in the 1990s, Western medicine had already established protocols. Changing those protocols requires overcoming institutional inertia. Reason 4. No infrastructure. You can't buy sea buckthorn at grocery stores. Farmers markets in some regions, yes. Health food stores sell dried berries, capsules, oil. But mainstream distribution doesn't exist. Growing it requires knowledge. Harvesting is labor-intensive. The thorns are vicious. Processing the berries into juice or oil requires equipment. Without supply chain infrastructure, sea buckthorn remains niche. Cancer rates are rising. Over 2 million new cancer diagnoses per year in the United States. Hundreds of thousands receive radiation therapy. Radiation burns, skin damage, mucous membrane destruction, immune suppression, chronic inflammation. Sea buckthorn could reduce that suffering. Oxidative stress is linked to nearly every chronic disease: heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's, autoimmune disorders. Sea buckthorn contains 190 antioxidants. Climate change is increasing UV radiation exposure, cancer rates climbing, premature aging, DNA damage from sun exposure. Sea buckthorn protects against UV damage. We spend billions on supplements: vitamin C, vitamin E, omega-3s, antioxidant blends. One berry contains all of them. The Soviets didn't suppress sea buckthorn with malice. They classified it because it gave them an advantage: healthier cosmonauts, faster recovery from radiation exposure, a strategic asset in the space race and nuclear age. But the cost of that secrecy was paid by everyone else. Millions of cancer patients suffered radiation burns without access to a treatment the Soviets had been using for decades. Athletes and soldiers endured oxidative stress without the most potent plant-based antioxidant on Earth. The pattern repeats. When plants heal without profit, they disappear. Not through violence, not through bans, through silence. Sea buckthorn grows wild across continents. It survived 480,000 years. It healed Chernobyl victims. It protected cosmonauts in space. And you've never heard of it, because no one profits from teaching you that a thorny shrub with orange berries contains everything your body needs to fight radiation, oxidative stress, and inflammation. The Soviets knew. They classified it. The files are open now. The question is, how many other plants are we not learning about because there's no money in teaching us? If this vault opened something for you, subscribe to Nature's Forgotten Vault and hit the bell. Every like and every share preserves what they tried to erase or forgot. The next vault opens soon.